Hello, colleagues, esteemed faculty members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to present the summary of my doctoral research capstone proposal titled The Executive Order 13768 and Compliance with International Migration Standard, the case of Los Angeles City Council. In the next 50 to 20 minutes, I will guide you through the major component of my research, providing a comprehensive overview of the design, rationale, and antecedent contribution to the academic literature. But before moving forward, I want to plead for your indulgence for my cracked voice and my breathing, possibly stoppage, interval stoppage in this presentation. This is due to my health challenge that I've been battling with for some days now. I have no option. I would have postponed this one, but since it's the last week, I'm putting all of effort, even against my doctor's advice. So once again, I want to thank you for understanding and for being with me at this time. Thank you. As mentioned, the title of the research is Executive Order 13768 and Compliance with International Migration Standards, the case of Los Angeles City Council. This is to examine the Executive Order 13768 on the immigration-related policy of the City of Los Angeles Council. Specifically, the main objective of this study is to answer the central research question, which is how did Executive Order 13768 influence the extent to which the Los Angeles City Council implemented and sustained an immigration-related policy consistent with international human rights standard. Just like any other research, the overview encompasses the 5 chapters, namely introduction, literature review, and methodology, results, and last but not the least, the chapter 5, which is going to be discussion through conclusion. I'm starting off with an introduction, which is the first chapter. As expected, this is the beginning of the research, which introduces the subject matter by examining the depth and discussing how local law impacts cooperation between the local authorities and federal immigration enforcement. Also, this is where the purpose of the research is made clear by addressing the interplay of how a U.S. domestic immigration enforcement policy interacts with global human rights and migration norms, and how a local government, this time the City of Los Angeles City Council, navigates the tension that is building in the order. The next one is going to be my research question. The research question being the fulcrum by which the entire research is rested upon, which subsequently defines the specific focus of the study that clearly outline what I intend to suffer within this chosen topic of Executive Order 13768 and compliance with international migration standard, the case of Los Angeles City Council. Doing so, therefore, will help me in shaping the direction of the research. That includes data collection, data analysis, and ultimately the conclusion. I will draw throughout the dissertation process. The major question of this research is, how does Executive Order 13768 influence the extent to which the Los Angeles City Council implemented and sustained immigration-related policies consistent with the international human rights standard? The significance of the research, no doubt, the subject matters enjoy a broader audience debate, but the debate have thrown up several unanswered questions which have provided a very fertile ground for academic rigorous work. The implication of this projected data from this research is to provide an insight for policymakers on balancing immigration policy that inculcate the policy position of both the national and those of the sub-nation, particularly in this case, the city of Los Angeles. Therefore, the existing gap on the subject matter will be filled for a deeper understanding for both the direct and indirect impact of the executive order. Next one is the literature review. The literature review of this research will focus on the following areas. 1. The Executive Order 13768. 2. International Migration Standard. This is the key human rights instrument and norm governing the treatment of immigrants, local government responses to federal immigration policies. Sanctuary of city policies. This is where we look at the historical evolution, legal basis, and effectiveness of protecting migrant communities, political culture, political, socio-economic, other factors. Federal local government dynamics, case study of Los Angeles. These are the guidance that will guide my literature review in respect of this research. The next one is the conceptual framework. This is the analytical lens through which I will examine the interaction between the federal migration standard, migration mandate, and the local responses. It will also look my research question to the existing theories and concepts. My research conceptual framework will encompasses the following: federal immigration policy, Executive Order 13768, international migration standard, the human rights based norms, local government responses, particularly this one, Los Angeles City Council policies, conflict, compliance, negotiation, and immigration governance. Last but not the least is going to be governance and human rights theories to explain the decision-making process. Theoretical framework of this study will provide me with a foundation for interpreting the finding and guide the research logic. Therefore, the framework will draw from theories that explain one multi-level governance theory. This is to explain how authority and policy responsibilities are distributed and contested between federal, states, and local government on immigration enforcement. Human rights theories. Of course, this is to grant the analysis in international legal and ethical obligation towards migrant. And last but not the least is the policy resistant theory. This is how to explain the governance development, how to develop countermeasure to restrictive federal mandates. This theory together will guide the interpretation of Los Angeles action as both political resistance and right-based governance. The approach I believe will help in linking the case study to a broader debate on sovereignty, decentralization, human rights in immigration policy implementation and formulation. The next one is going to be my variables. Here I'm going to be talking about looking at the independent variables and the dependent variable. I was starting with the independent variables. The independent variable will be we include a provision of Executive Order 13768, such as federal funding restriction and enforcement mandate, and international migration standard. These specific human rights principles and legal obligations. Also covered is local sanctuary policies adopted by City of Los Angeles Council. This will include the limit on cooperation with federal migration authorities, other with federal to local political relationship, reflecting the level of conflict or cooperation between the city and federal agencies. While the dependent variable will include Los Angeles City Council compliance or non-compliance with the federal immigration enforcement directive under the Executive Order 13768. They will also encompasses the alignment of local policies with international migration standard. Also, the extent of protection afforded to migrant communities, such as access to service and legal safeguard. Intervening and moderating variables. The intervening or moderating variable will include California state law, as such as California Value Act. That influences how federal policies and apply locally. Judicial rulings on the legality and sanctuary policy will also act as moderating factor. Also, public opinion and community activism too will serve a moderating variable. And of course, additionally, available of local resources too will be additional moderating variables. My methodology. Of course, majorly qualitative methodology will be employed for this study, majorly. But some element of quantitative methodology will be employed too, focusing on Los Angeles City Council as the unit of analysis. The qualitative analysis data will be gathering through document analysis of policy text, council resolution, legal documentation, and international migration standard alongside key informant interviews with policymakers, legal experts, advocacy group. To complement this, quantitative elements such as statistical data on immigration enforcement action, fund allocation, and service access will be analyzed to provide a measurable context and strengthen the quantitative findings, the qualitative findings. My research approach. The research will use mainly qualitative approach that would allow for depth of understanding and evidence-based validation of finding. And just like I said earlier, element of quantitative approach is expected to be involved. The qualitative component will explore policy document, legal framework, and stakeholders' perspective to understand the dynamics between the federal mandate, international standards, and local governance in this instance. This approach will ensure that a comprehensive analysis of the Los Angeles policy response within the broader immigration governance. Case selection rationale. Of course, the choice of Los Angeles City Council is very specific, being the case study of this subject, because the City of Los Angeles Council represents one of the most prominent sanctuary jurisdictions in the United States that openly challenges the Federal Immigration Enforcement under the Executive Order 13768. The city has a long history of migrant advocacy and has adopted policy closely aligned with international human rights norms. Its diverse immigrant population makes it critical for examining the real-world application of these local policies conflict. Additionally, Los Angeles provides a rich source, a data source that include legislative records, legal cases, enforcement statistics, and so on and so forth. This is the reason why this city is chosen among other cities. My data collection method. I will use a semi-structured interview, document analysis, and policy review for my data collection. Whereby the participant will be local enforcement officials, city policymakers, immigration attorney, community leaders, and immigration rights advocates in both cities. Sampling, I'm looking at between 30 and 50, of which of the number that the city will be divided into. So I'm going to have a sampling around. So with that similar purpose and exploring practitioner of federal immigrant enforcement effectiveness and factor shaping the local responses. Document analysis. Sorry. Document and policy analysis, this will be a secondary source which encompasses City Council, Resolution, Police Department, Protocol, ICE, Memorandum of Agreement. Of course, the main purpose of the understanding the official policy and compare the implementation with that of the stakeholders' narratives. Data analysis. Thematic analysis will be employed in this study using open ASIC coding to identify pattern, category, relationship, and so on and so forth. The analysis will be conducted in NVivo, which will guide by conceptual and theoretical framework. My findings, the study finding is where I will, of course, analyze all the reports that have emerged from the data I've collected all through the interviews, and in the whole of research, whatever that I have, data I've gathered will be finalized and thematically and comparatively highlighted and analyzed properly to be able to deduce what comes out, and whatever I find in it will determine the outcome of my result. Case study. This case study we presenting a detailed contextual narrative of the city of Los Angeles in California. Since this is the real component where I'm putting my attention on it to capture as an example of that antagonize this proclamation. Broader implication. This is where I will explain why my finding, and particularly this is where data will reveal the broader implication of the study that local government can serve as a critical actor in either upholding international human rights norms or otherwise. Even when the national policies are restrictive, it will be known if it will reveal outcome of some national resistance in shaping practical implementation of American governance within the federal government. Limitation. Why this research is expected to offer valuable insight into how divergent statutory policies influences local immigration enforcement. Several limitations are acknowledged, such as limited general accessibility, participant selection bias, subjectivities of qualitative data, temporal constraint, and my personality. Conclusion. Information deduced from the data during the study will form the basis of for the research conclusion of and how the sanctuary policy can influence migration enforcement and community dynamism. As arising from all the appropriate suggestions will be offered to future policy on how to focus on balanced enforcement with social cohesion and justice. Thank you very much, and I want to appreciate you for taking your time to listen to me despite of my hiccup and the problem I have at this time. Thanks so much. God bless you.